Good morning. I have been asked by a number of you to comment on red flag laws and explain them. And I wanted to break it down in about 5 minutes. I should be able to do that pretty quick. So let me tell you what basically red flag laws are. Now, at this moment, there is no bill currently before the Virginia delegates or the Senate that explains what they're going to do in Virginia. But looking at the other states like California and Colorado and some of the states in the Northeast, here's essentially what red flag laws are. You are a dangerous person, and a family member or a coworker goes to a magistrate and says, you are a dangerous person, and then the police come and they can take your guns. Once the guns are taken, you then have to go to court to prove you're not a dangerous person or not mentally unstable. And then if you prove that, the judge gives you your guns back. Now, that's it explained. And I do want to make this one point. Keep in mind, I'm an attorney. I'm just trying to explain the law to you. I'm not saying I agree with these laws. I'm saying this is how these laws work. All right. Now, the problem with red flag laws primarily is this, is you get there. Well, first, there's plenty of reason for abuse. People could say you're your neighbor who doesn't like you, could say you're acting crazy and make a false statement to the police, and then they come out and take your guns. A coworker could do that who doesn't like you, so there's huge tendencies for abuse. But here's really where red flag laws have a big problem. So you're crazy, and so I get a red flag order against you, and then the police come and take your guns, and then you're fine. That's really the fallacy of the red flag law problems, is if you're crazy, I get your guns, then you're free to continue on in society. And that's a big problem. If I'm a crazy person and I have guns and you take my guns, that doesn't take away my homicidal tendencies. I will just find a way to carry them out in some other way, I would think. Virginia has two procedures to deal with people that are in a mental health dangerous position. The first one is something called a temporary detention order. So if you are in a crisis moment, a family member or coworker or friend or even a doctor can ask the court to put you into a mental hospital for evaluation for 3 days. It's called a TDO. And in those 3 days, a medical professional can evaluate you, and then they can decide if you need to stay there longer. And if they do, then there's a judicial process for whether you're going to have to stay in the hospital for a longer period of time. So that deals with the crazy element of society, which really means we don't need red flag laws to deal with that. I mean, if you're crazy, then we have the TDO process. And personally, I think that if you're crazy, then we use the TDO process because it puts you into a secured facility for evaluation. Not just come and grab your guns and then you're still free to continue on and be normal in life. So that is that's the first one. The second one is the second argument for red flag laws is it's really more of a domestic thing. Husbands shoot their wives shoot their husbands. It's an emotional thing. Well, we have something to deal with that already in Virginia as well. It's called a protective order. So if you're in a situation where a spouse or family member thinks that you're dangerous to them, they can go get a protective order. And that protective order requires you to stay away from that person, and it takes away your right to own or possess a firearm. Now, the difference between a protective order and a red flag law is that with a protective order, you're not allowed to have possession of a gun. So you can take your guns and you can give them to a family member or a friend or have them secured in a way you don't have access. Whereas in red flag laws, they come out and take your guns. Now, here's why red flag laws are big problems. First, there's not been a single court in the United States that has ruled them unconstitutional. They've been challenged. There's not been any courts, federal or state, that have said the idea of red flag laws is unconstitutional. The other problem is that they do seem to have bipartisan support. Even President Trump recently came out in support of red flag laws. There was a CNN article, and you can Google it, from September of this year, where he backs red flag laws. And so So they're coming, but they don't make a lot of sense to anybody who really thinks about them. So again, if you're a dangerous person or you're a crazy person and you have homicidal tendencies and the police come and they take your guns, they don't do anything with the person. The person's still allowed to be free. And that doesn't make any sense. So it would seem as though we, as a society, Democrats, I hope you're listening, as a society, we don't need red flag laws. We already have temporary detention orders. And if the person is dangerous, if the person is crazy, if the person is in distress, then getting them into a mental hospital would seem to be the most appropriate tool because, one, it takes away their guns because they're in a mental hospital, and two, it really lets a doctor decide if this person is in a crisis moment or if maybe it's a false allegation. It lets a doctor decide that. And so we don't need them. It's not going to change anything in Virginia. It's not going to make anybody more safe. There already are 2 tools out there for people that could be in danger for somebody who has firearms. Red flag laws are not going to make anybody more safe. So hope that gives you a breakdown and explanation. There's about 5 minutes of that and gives you some talking points when people are asking whether we should have these or not. Have a great day, Facebook.